put overt pressure on the UN and its monetary instruments, the IMF and the World Bank. We must do this. This is a non-compromising condition of revolution. Fund, yes. Now, New York Boule, first name. Now, Lee Brown is not on this list because he was initiated in the new chapter, NU chapter at Houston. But he is a New York Boule member now. Transferred. Mr. Lee Andrew Archer Jr. Now, anybody know any of these people, holler out, because this is the only way everybody gonna understand who they are is to holler out. Mr. Lee Andrew Archer Jr., 21 Payne Avenue, New Rochelle, New York. Now, you gotta follow them. You got to have a fucking address so you can be at their house on that Saturday. The meeting might be in the morning. It could be in the afternoon. Might be in the evening. Take a sandwich, a radio, and sit and wait. Follow. Mr. Arthur R. Ashe Jr. P.O. Box 447, Bedford Hills, New York. Dr. Lloyd T. Barnes. Anybody know him? 1270 Fifth Avenue, New York, New York. Barnes, what's he do? That's Lloyd T. Barnes. 1270 Fifth Avenue, New York, New York. He uses a P.O. Box 447, Bedford Hills, New York. Now, I thought it was interesting, too, and I'll show it to you just so that you could see it. I saw 2 articles in the New York Times about 2 different protests. One protest was at Jeffries and Daughtry's house, and another protest was at a white dude's house who was doing something with the Crown Heights thing. I forget what his name is. The white guy? I don't know. I had to read you the article. I got the article up here. I don't know who the white guys were, but Sharpton and these people went to this neighborhood. Okay. And what's he do? And he was on LIB, but Coakley wasn't. Right, district, okay. Now, when they had the protest, they put Jeffrey's address, home address, and Daughtry's home address in the New York Times. I got it in Washington, D.C. It went all over the country. Now, you know how much hate mail and other harassment are going to come from them Jewish people at the New York Times, right? Right? When's the last time y'all had a protest at the New York Times? See, now that the Post and that Daily News got here, they do so much shit, you leave them alone. See, they're the biggest. Well, see, the Post is not your biggest enemy because the New York Times is worldwide. They set world impression. The Post is for to rash you in the counter and shadow box with, while the New York Times, the real monster killer, sets impressions worldwide. The similar story on the protest at the white boy's house does not contain the white boy's address. Now, or his house. It says his neighborhood. And what I'm saying to that is that then the reporters, the 2 reporters, and I'm going to read you their names, you should find their addresses, and we should put their addresses on the flyer to let them know the consequences of exposing these brothers' families. See, I take that personally. I have 2 children, 8 and 7. Now, in all the time I fought with the Jewish people, ain't nobody ever come nowhere near my neighborhood because the people in the neighborhood developed a system that if a white man even came on our block, they would stop them and question them, why are you here? Now, that's what they did for my family, the little gang boys. The little gang boys didn't nobody want. That's what they did to protect my children. Now, the flip side is that when they put those addresses there, them men's families, then they make their families vulnerable to the opposition, and you can never let that signal go out. You cannot let that signal go out without jamming the 2 reporters. And please, before I stop, make me read you their names and the dates of the article. Well, shit, y'all act like. Right now. Count that bucket, Roy. What we got in that bucket? Everybody's so pushy. They're ready, huh? Okay. It's right up here. Anyway, I'm going to keep talking while we're doing it because it's important. Let's see. It's in the attack on black leadership file. And you see they've been attacking the nation and brother minister. We can't allow that. And there's been attacks up in our community. We cannot allow these attacks to continue. We have to cut off the attack, and that's by attacking. That's how you cut off the attack, by attacking. And when we start attacking, and I appreciate a lot of things that were done here, we will be relieved of that tension. I'm going to find it. I'm going to work across this stage. And all it is, listen up now, all it is, oh yeah, here's another one. Here's James Earl Jones letting them put a pie in his face the night of the Emmy Awards. I don't get that shit. He got 2 Emmy Awards, but he let them put the damn pie in his face. Now, what kind of shit is that? How can a black man do something like that in front of all them white people? I don't know if he a boule or not. I don't know if he in a boule or not. Okay, listen up now. Don't get too restless, shit. You wasn't too jumping before I got here. Right. Don't get so jumpy now. Listen up. I think this is it. No, that ain't it either. Let me see here. Anyway, we're going to find it. We got to read those names out of the 2 articles. Okay, let's go. Okay, here we go. But see, I don't want you to get to, see again. Well, anyway, we'll get to it one at a time. Okay, next name. Mr. Earl J. Benjamin, 150 Beachmont Drive, New Rochelle, New York. Dr. Garval H. Booker, 149 Stone Oaks Drive, Hartsdale, New York. Dr. John B. Branche, B-R-A-N-C-H-E, 104 Alabama Avenue, Hempstead, New York. What? Treats children. Good doctor? On the school board now. Okay. Yes, it is. Right. That's why we want it on the tape, so everybody understand what they do. Dr. Samuel C. Brisbane, B-R-I-S-B-A-N-E, 560 Riverside Drive, New York, New York. Mr. Sharnia Buford, 41 Payne Avenue, New Rochelle, New York. Dr. George Downs Cannon, 1200 Fifth Avenue, New York, New York. Judge Robert L. Carter, 65 Central Park West, New York, New York. Good judge, bad judge. Uncle Remus, Boulay. Attorney Julius L. Chambers, 548 Cumberland Street, Inglewood, New Jersey. Mr. Kenneth I. Chenault, 246 Beachmont Drive, New Rochelle, New York. President of American Express, okay. Mr. Malcolm L. Corrin, C-O-R-R-I-N, 91 Hawthorne Avenue, East Orange, New Jersey. Dr. Harry M. Delaney, 45 Magnolia Avenue, Mount Vernon, New York. Watch him. Judge Hubert T. Delaney, 676 Riverside Drive, New York, New York. He's dead? He's dead? He just feel like it. Huh? Mr. Leonard E. DePaur, P-A-U-R. I don't know how to pronounce it, so 100 LaSalle Street, New York. Judge Edward R. Dudley, 549 West 123rd Street, New York, New York. Y'all know him? Mr. Edward R. Dudley, Jr., 95 West 95th Street, New York, New York. Mr. Christopher F. Edley, 90 Vaughn Avenue, New Rochelle, New York. Mr. Clarence C. Finley, 25 Overhill Road, New Rochelle, New York. Dr. Joseph Henry French, 2 Belmont Place, Staten Island, New York. Dr. Alwyn H. Granadi, G-R-A-N-A-D-Y. That family's historically been in the Boulay. 242 Lincroft Road, New Rochelle, New York. Mr. Earl G. Graves. 8 Heathcloth Road, Scarsdale, New York. Here's the Jewish member, Mr. Jack Greenberg. You see, they let a few white people in, supposedly whites who were active in the civil rights movement, and they turned out to all be Jewish whites. Oh yeah, you know it. You know he's a cutthroat from a long time. Always claiming responsibility for things that black people died for. Charles J. Hamilton, attorney. 50 Beach Street Drive, Larchmont, New York. Larchmont, New York. I told y'all about correcting me about that English shit. Dr. Charles V. Hamilton. That don't ring a bell, huh? Black Power with Stokely Carmichael. Works for the Rockefeller Foundation, big time. Charles Hamilton, gray, silver-haired black man, $400-500 suits. Wrote Black Power with Stokely Carmichael. Huh? I wouldn't doubt it. He's been known to activate the intelligence agencies. 55 Bernard Road, New Rochelle, New York. Dr. Bernard Warren Harston, H-A-R? City College. What did he do? President. See, I told you to get them college presidents. Follow his ass. He live at 30 Lincoln Plaza, New York, New York. Huh? Is he a Negro? If he on this list. Sorry, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Now, let me go on. Let's see here. A Conrad K. Harper, attorney. Clinton Place, Irvington, New York. Reverend Dr. Donald S. Harrington. Peconic, New York. Peconic. Mr. Paul A. Haywood. 34 Abbeville Lane, White Plains, New York. Excuse me. I get that white supremacy. Okay. Mr. Butler T. Henderson, 69 Fifth Avenue, New York. Mr. Joseph N. Hill, 3 Washington Square Village, New York, New York. Benjamin L. Hooks. Oh, y'all knew the nigga was in there. We always knew that nigga name. Right, we knew that nigga was in it. Shit. Real name Benjamin Crooks. Right, you know it. Dr. Edwin C. Horn. Oh, 116 Central Park South. Y'all should have been knowing where that nigga lived. Much money he done stole. And he's also a big-time Prince Hall Mason, too. He also took Bush to the Prince Hall Convention and had him be the main speaker. Dr. Edwin C. Horn, H-O-R-N-E, 374 Miller Avenue, Inglewood, New Jersey. Dr. John E. Hutchinson III, 12 East 68th Street, New York, New York. Mr. Theodore C. Jackson, 87-49 Chevy Chase Street, Jamaica, New York. Mr. Well, we should go there. And don't forget how many of you all are here would like a new house. Don't forget, go into the nice white neighborhoods. Pick you out a real nice house. Shoot a picture of it. Register your claim on that house with me. And if we win, that's your house. That's right, you got it. When we win, that's right, brother. That's right. I see that slobber didn't knock you out. You all right. You're still alive in the first row. All right. Mr. John E. Jacob. Oh, now y'all should have known Urban League, NAACP. Now remember, I found the names in the Spingarn collection. He helped form the NAACP and Urban League. So of course Jacobs and Hooks would be there. They own them. 14 Barnaby Lane, Hartsdale, New York. Mr. Jeff Vincent Johnson. 14 Edge Hill Road, Waspingers Falls, New York. I have to say, I see Tawana Brawley down at the campus at Howard University. And if nothing else happened, the fact that she's in school and doing well should be an impact of, a good impact of what is going on. Lowell Douglas Johnson, attorney, Johnston. Lowell Douglas Johnston, attorney, 36 East 72nd Street, New York, New York. Time to go, brothers? Time for us to leave? Oh, shit. Mr. Ulysses S.K., K-A-Y, 1271 Alicia Avenue, Teaneck, New Jersey. Used to write for the Afro-American and the Pittsburgh Courier. Dr. Raymond W. L-E-M-I-E-U-X. I don't know French, so I can't say this shit. There you go. You the one said the French was the little dash on the line, little Lapierre in there. All right. 118 Park Avenue, West, White Plains, New York. Mr. Edward Joseph Levy, 70 West 95th Street, New York, New York. Now that might be another one of them Jewish people. He black? Levy. L-E-V-Y. What'd he do? No, he can't coach track and get in the boule. He got to do some more than that. Anyway, I'm not to say he ain't. He'll be right. Okay. Let's see here. Mr. Edward Lewis, 40 West 86th Street, New York, New York. That's who? Essence Magazine. What'd he do? He owns it. Mr. Edward Lewis. Is that right? Okay. Just check the ads. You'll know them when you check the ads. The address, I said it was 40 West 86th Street, New York, New York. And see, John Johnson of Ebony Jet is a boule, Earl Grey's boule, and if this guy boule, just check the magazines and look at the ads and you will know for sure. Mr. George R. Lewis, 209 Lyman Road, Stamford, Connecticut. Mr. Eugene L. McCabe. What's he do? Okay, 150 East 77th Street, New York, New York. All right. Attorney Cornelius McDougall, but he got a D on the end. MC, D-O-U-G-A-L-D. He's an attorney. 435 Convent Avenue, New York, New York. Huh? Harlem? Okay. That's Cornelius Mc... Anybody know him? Is he any good? He's all right? He lost your case? What was your case about? Okay. Mr. Donald L. Miller, 522 Teal Plaza, Secaucus, New Jersey. Dr. Thomas K. Minter. We talked about the Minters. 4555 Henry Hudson Parkway, Riverdale, New York. Dr. Marcus W. Moore, 177 Saxon Wood Road, Scarsdale, New York. Mr. Harry L. Morris, 245 East 25th Street, apartment 17B, New York, New York. Godfrey H. Murrain, attorney, 240 Shore Ward Drive, Great Neck, New York. Big timey, good black, big time, boule time. Okay. Mr. Harry L. Morris. Oh, we did him. Godfrey Moraine. Barrington D. Parker, Jr., attorney. Barrington D. Parker, Jr., attorney. 21 Bonnie Way, Larchmont, New York. We coming, we at the P's, brother. Dr. John W. Parker, Jr., 416 Sturtevant Avenue, Brooklyn, New York. Dr. Robert E. Reed, R-E-I-D, 84 Glenwood Road, New Rochelle, New York, 10801. James Robert Rohn, R-H-O-N-E, attorney, 140 West N Avenue, number 12H, New York, New York. Mr. Roy S. Roberts, 832 Old Farm Road, I ain't even going to try to pronounce that city, Chappaqua. Oh, that's Chappaquiddick? Oh, I didn't know what it looked like. Mr. Harvey C. Russell, 9 Alta Vista Drive, Yonkers, New York. Mr. William N. Riles, R-Y-L-E-S, 485 Lenox Avenue, New York, New York. Mr. Frank Savage, 555 West Hill Road, Stamford, Connecticut. Stamford, Connecticut. Mr. Stanley S. Scott, you all should remember him from the Reagan, from all Republicans' White Houses, because, and he was vice president of Philip Morris, still, I believe. He's supposed to be very sick, near death. 20 Birch Lane, Dobbs Ferry, New York. Dr. Marvin L. Shelton, 712 Ladd Road, Bronx, New York. Mr. Newton H. Smiley, S-M-Y-L-E-Y, 64 Virginia Avenue, Hempstead, New York. Dr. Theodore R. Stent, S-T-E-N-T, 6015 Independence Avenue, Riverdale, New York. Mr. Edward V. Taylor, Sr., 180 West N Avenue, New York, New York. Dr. Robert John Taylor, 19 Sturtevant Oval Apartment, 19E, New York, New York. Dr. William E. Taylor, 555, sure you're right. What? That's the street. That's the address too. Mr. Frank L. Thompson, 85-14 105th Street, Jamaica, New York. 85-14 105th Street, Jamaica, New York. Judge Andrew Redding Tyler. Yes, Andy Tyler. Tried to get him? Okay, 19 Lanark Road, Yonkers, New York. Dr. Robert C. Weaver, 215 East 68th Street. Umpteen years. Way up there. Dr. Aaron Otis Wells, 124 West 88th Street, New York, New York. Dr. M. Morin Weston II, 253 Boulevard East, New Rochelle, New York. Mr. Frederick D. Wilkerson, Jr., 319 East Grand Street, Mount Vernon, New York. Dr. Frost B. Wilkerson, 150 West N Avenue, New York, New York. Mr. E. Thomas Williams, Jr., 14 East 90th Street, New York, New York. Mr. Franklin H. Williams, 52 East 89th Street, New York, New York. I believe he died recently, did he? Used to be up into the Rockefeller stuff real heavy. I don't know, he's Franklin and Williams. Judge Joseph B. Williams, 19 Rutland Road, Brooklyn, New York. Judge Joseph B. Williams, 19 Rutland Road, Brooklyn, New York. Y'all know him? He did what? Okay. Mr. Thomas A. Wood, I think it's his daughter that goes to Hampton, because in one of the tapes you hear her say, that was my daddy is Judge such and such in New York or something like that. Mr. Right, it might be Jackson or Williams, one of them, but I think it might be him. Mr. Thomas A. Wood, Box 231, Island Station, New York, New York. Mr. Peter L. DeLuca, 360 East 72nd Street, New York. Mr. Marion S. English, 30 Perry Avenue, White Plains, New York. Mr. Lawrence B. Herrings, Harrisingh. Yeah, what did that mean? Damn, I don't even know what the tape is. Okay. Now, don't forget, if any of you all leave, there's some of those tapes in the back. There's some specific things back there. There's a couple of tapes on the Boule, the Washington, Baltimore Boule, and the history of the Boule, as well as the making of the Negro. I know there were only about 6 or 7 copies left when I was there last. At different times while I'm talking, you may want to run to the table, grab the tape, and run back to the chair so that you can beat the rush, because they're going to be gone. There's not many left. Let's see, Dr. Frederick R. Randall, Dr. Frederick H. Williams, P.O. Box 994, Oak Bluffs, Massachusetts. And these are the names of deceased members whose wives are listed: Farrell R. Allen, Julian A. W. Anderson, John W. Davis, William Freeman, William G. Holly, Robert S. Jarson, Reginald A. Johnson, Thomas O. Johnson, David D. Jones, Samuel L. Kountz, David A. Lane Jr., R. O'Hara Lanier, Arthur C. Logan, Curtis F. McCain, Fleming H. Norris, Scoville Richardson, Clifford E. Terry, Leon E. Thomas, William R. Valentine, Hale A. Woodruff, and Whitney M. Young. Of course, he is long since deceased. Now, let's kill the Boule part. We'll talk about them at another time. Who? Who? Okay, see, the last time I was here, I read the list from up to 69. That's the last known printed list in 88. They will be printing a new list this year, because you see, Dinkins isn't on that list, but we know Dinkins is in it, because he's in the LA Times article. He's in the LA Times article for it, and so we want to especially keep him up on that.
Who signed off on suspending Hope? He's the head of that lawyer's case.
I remember last time I was here, most of the people whose names I read that were attorneys had done whatever they could do to hurt brother, and that was well known in the information that these people appeared to be very highly significant in jamming on brother. Now, a couple of things I need to get in. One is, last time I was here, and I saw the tape just the other day, I talked about the fight between the WASP and the Zionists. Now, obviously, the fight is continuing. This is very important for us, because we must take advantage of white-on-white aggression against each other. This is a very important thing, and the process deals with the fact, I remember last time I was here, I made mention of that Baker had come out and said that the Israelis were holding up the peace agreement. Of course, we call them the Is-It-Reallys. They're not Israelis, they're Is-It-Reallys. See, that's the state of Is It Real. See, when I was being monitored by the Jewish people, I had given a forum, an anti-colonialism month. See, you got Columbus Day coming up. I always had anti-colonialism month. October is anti-colonialism month. And so in that month, I would have a series of events, especially in Chicago. At one point, we had 22 cities at one time, especially for anti-Columbus Day, where we'll do Columbus, Ohio this year. And during that time, I used to give a forum called Is It Real, the Bastard Country? Is it real, the bastard country? That's a country without a father. It was stolen. That's what happened. You have stolen countries. You have bastard children. So is it real? And what had happened was, when they were going against me in the mayor's office, the ADL, which has an international watch of monitoring activity, Anti-Defamation League, right, got some tapes back there on the history of the Anti-Defamation League. I noticed earlier very few people were interested in the tape. And I will tell you, if you in New York with the headquarters of the ADL ain't got wise to that little crooked spy operation yet, then y'all sleeper than I ever thought, because the ADL, whose offices are right there at 345 East 46th Street, right there with the Trilateral Commission, where you can't even walk in the lobby without getting stopped. Y'all ought to have sure enough action on them, because they stir up international mess, but they also hold files on black leaders and good black followers. And you should know them as well as they know you. I have been the brunt of special reports of the ADL, long responsible in this case of taking the information against me to the mayor by manipulating a particular tape I had done at the Nation of Islam on education. And at the end of that tape, I spoke on some activity about Asian Jewish doctors, and they used that as a way to force the mayor to let me go. And that was all right, because I couldn't have got here to you if that had not happened. Now Bush has got a game going with the Israelis, but I have to tell you this so that you understand it clearly. George Bush would not be able to attack the Israelis by holding off the money if it were not for activities of Leonard Jeffries, the Slave Theater, the Nation of Islam, and others, Professor Griff and others who attacked back at these people, because George Bush knows, as he has watched very carefully, the white people have watched how effectively you have fought them back. So the WASP amongst them decide that they're going to make a move on them and bump them down in the size. Now this is a deep, don't underestimate the fact that the WASP boys are going to take on the Zionist boys. Don't underestimate this, because the busting of Solomon Brothers, done by Nicholas Brady, Rhodes Scholar, WASP, led by his leader, George Bush, they could have busted Solomon in the last 50 years for doing what they did. But they busted them now because they in a tit for tat. You see, the BCI, when they busted up the BCI, the little dude over there in Pakistan or somewhere said it's the Israelis that busted us. Now, what did you got? You got WASP, Clark Clifford, Robert Altman, and a whole bunch of other Anglos getting busted by a Zionist connection. Then you got the Zionists getting busted by the Anglos. And Rand John Goodfriend, Trilateral Commissioner, beast to no end, who was running Solomon Brothers, who had cornered the Treasury notes, but had cornered it in a way that when they resold them, they could make the price double what it was they bought it for from the government, which meant they became the government by the selling of the bonds. He who owns the bonds calls the municipal, federal, state, and local tombs. Now, you all should have had enough of Lazard Perez here. No, but I don't think you have. Because Felix Rohan come in and out of here controlling this city through the Municipal Assistance Corporation, and y'all ain't never fucked with him, have you? Now, you can't tell me that somebody been teaching you about these people, because some people will make sure you don't never go fuck with them. They control the interest rates and the ones who bring the bonds to them. Now, Moody's and Standard & Poor's, what are they? What corporation owns Moody's? What corporation owns Moody's? No. Now, if Moody's can control a municipal city by floating the note, how come we don't know who owns Moody's? So that if your city get fucked and your bond go down and they got to close schools and hospitals and libraries, you don't even know who to go fuck with. Dun & Bradstreet, show you right. Dun & Bradstreet, which is so big it has 9 million files on every corporation in the world. Dun & Bradstreet. Dun & Bradstreet. Thank you, brother. Dun & Bradstreet, yes. And McGraw-Hill owns Standard & Poor's. McGraw-Hill. Book publishing, among other things. Now, what is interesting, I want to show you this little front page. I thought it was kind of funny. Here's a little remark Bush made. And they put it on the front page of the Washington Jewish Week. Some powerful political forces versus one lonely little guy. What George Bush did was he gave a press conference in the White House. He called a couple of very hastily called press conferences when he had put the word out that he wanted them to step back off of the $10 billion loan guarantee and wait until after this so-called peace thing was settled. Well, they said, fuck you, Bush, we're going to go ahead with it anyway. Now, Shamir means hard as stone. Shamir means hard as stone. This is the ruthlessest, I can't even say the shit. This is the most ruthless beast in their operation. And he in the front seat right now, and he don't give a fuck. He'll do whatever he think he can get away with. Now, Bush decided he was going to mess with him, and then Shamir and them start jumping him. But then Bush runs and gives a press conference, and this is the question. This is New York Times running the transcript of the press conference, Friday, September 13, 1991. Question: are those powerful political forces ungrateful for what you've done so far in the peace process? And why doesn't the peace argument sell with them? I think it will sell, but that's going to take a little time. And we're up against very strong and effective sometimes groups that go up to the hill. I heard today that there was something like 1,000 lobbyists on the Hill working the other side of the question. We've got one lonely little guy down here doing it. Talking about himself. That's where the quote comes from, one little lonely guy. Well, you got to pick up on the language that Bush is taunting them. Yeah, y'all so big and motherfucking powerful. One little guy gonna hold y'all ass up. Now, understand this. Skull and Bones, Bush's secret society is getting fronted for the imposition of women. And you know who always brought the women issue to the front. Who was that? Show you right. So Bush and the Jewish people got a little tit-for-tat thing going on. Sununu, who was the only governor who refused to sign the agreement to go to the United Nations with the Zionists to overthrow the resolution equating Zionism with racism. He was the only governor out of 50, while he was governor of New Hampshire, who refused to sign. And when he became chief of staff, they complained to Bush, and he said that if he was governor, he would sign it. Of course, he wasn't governor then, so it didn't mean much. But then when Sununu got in trouble over his travel and was getting busted in the ass, if you didn't see the story was real clear. Sununu came out and said, I got a Jewish problem. See, he's Lebanese. See, and the Jewish, and immediately they condemned his ass, and he ran and met with the little presidents of the damn thing and apologized. And the thing to it was that the reason he did it was that they was putting this pressure on him. But he was serious about the fact that he had a Jewish problem. I remember when I was on Crossfire, fighting with them Jewish people, and Pat Buchanan, at the end of the show says, I'm fighting with this guy, Irv Rubin of the JDL. Pat Buchanan says, you know, I didn't really want to do this show, but I'm kind of glad Coakley got out there and put his views out in the public, in the national arena. Angelo boy, who had to fight Abe Rosenthal of the New York Times. Y'all remember that? Back in the wintertime. They was fighting it out. And he's still here now. Now, Bush would never make a move. See, you got to calculate the situation room. The white boy would never make the move he made. He made the move right in the Leonard Jeffries situation. Bush made the move on the Israelis right in the Leonard Jeffries situation because he knows that cuts the Jewish people off from going to get the Negro, Boule, and others and dragging them in and demanding that Bush not do what he's doing. See, the Jewish people have been isolated, in case you don't know that. While they were seeking to isolate you from the ones who love you, they got isolated. And now that they are isolated, everybody gonna take a little shot at their weak ass. But if it was not for you, who have shown how to deal with them, and the others who have withstood their pressure, Bush would never have made such a move. All these articles say it is unprecedented for a white American president to bust the myth of the powerful Jewish lobby. That's the people are the power, sister, sure enough, and the leaders learn how to use the people. But you need to know that they would never have pulled it off if it hadn't have been for you. Then when they get mad, they go and resort to the same old shit. Israeli loan dispute turns ugly. Rightist calls Bush anti-Semite. Now I like that shit. Now this is the lecture hall for all anti-Semites. I'm proud to be here. Now, don't let me see Bush up in here, though, now. We don't want Bush to come here. But just by being labeled anti-Semite, he'd get to go some places he couldn't go before. And see, that's very important. That's right. That's right. Shamir went out and told him, shut up. Don't be doing that to him. He went out there and what they do that? They call that, he repudiated the remark. Right? And see, that's real important that you got that type of activity going on. So what you do is, you go to a white guy who know a white guy and say, man, don't y'all let them Jewish people fuck with y'all. You go over here and you tell Jewish person, say, hey, Jack Greenberg, how y'all gonna let Bush fuck with y'all, man? You know what I mean? You set him up. Oh, listen, that's funny. That's what they've been doing to you. Hey, white on white violence is a high level of Steve Coakley's platform for revolution. White on white violence, magnified, profiled, and instigated. That's very important. Very important that we be up on that. Rockefeller. Oh, in fact, there's one tape back there, I don't know how many left, about Rhodes Rothschild Secret Society. I did it after I left here. There's no way in the world that I don't know, I don't live in New York. When's the last time y'all had a protest on Rockefeller? No, they haven't. Sister Shah of Iran, them was Iranians, not Africans. But now let me ask y'all a question. See, y'all got to be, the counterintelligence team in New York must be pretty damn deep. Because this man owned Exxon, Mobil, Atlantic Richfield, set up the Persian Gulf War. How many of y'all know somebody died in the war or got shot up for nothing? And this man run New York. He is the chairman of the American establishment. He represents America at the table of world power. And we sitting up here in New York and ain't fuck with him yet. Now, I don't know what meetings y'all been going to, but somebody done really fucked you up about who to get when it come down. I understand. Sister just want to say that we don't fuck with them. And we need to fuck with them. And there needs to be, if there has to be, the anti-Rockefeller operation. There must be direct pressure on the Rockefeller, his descendants, and his operations in New York, else you will never get free here. You will never get free if you don't fuck Rockefeller in New York. Never, ever. And don't leave up out of New York coming no place else talking about what you gonna do. You ain't fucked it right here. That's another rule. Change the things you can reach. We're gonna come back to him. Brother here wanna make sure we get Rothschild tonight. And you have to keep your eye on them Rothschilds. They got an investment banking company. They're still the dominating family in Europe. When they founded the Trilateral, Rockefeller chaired the American section and Rothschild chaired the European section. The Rothschild family is still dominated by what you should never forget about Rothschild. And I was watching, as one week I saw in the Sunday New York Times where Jeffries had accused the Jewish people of having a secret society. And he mentioned the word the Kabbalah. And he mentioned the Kabbalah and other professors that had told him about it. In fact, that was deep on the Donahue show. That Jeffrey said that his little Jewish, look at this shit went out, get this shit back on, that Jeffrey said that his little Jewish fraternity had all the tests of the teachers, knew the questions when they changed, had profiled the teachers, and all of them got good grades because they had intelligence operations on the teachers. That was deep. That was deep. And that was in 59, y'all. This 91. What kind of shit you think they got going now? Yeah, that was deep. That was deep. That was hidden. That was some hidden dialogue. I'm sorry, brother. That's a shame. That's why they did that chump movie on him, tried to make him look like a chump. That was sorry thing. How many of you all saw this article last week? Oh, it wasn't good. It wasn't good. I didn't come here to tell you because I thought this article on was Cleopatra Black good, because in the midst of you fighting the Jewish people, they come down and say that the only reason this is now big in the public and is being fought and understood by black people is because some damn Jewish man went and pushed it into the arena. Did you read the article? It says that it's this Jewish man. It don't say Dr. Ben. It don't say Dr. Clark. It had a question mark by Diop. It don't say Chancellor Williams. It say Jewish man is the one that then put Afrocentrism on the minds of the scholars. That's some deep shit. Then you got two Negroes at white universities arguing over Afrocentrism, and neither one of them was saying shit. Asante and this Negro from Harvard, Gates. And what's wrong with both of them? This guy says, give me Afrocentrism. I don't mean to disturb you. I don't want to knock out your thing. I just want you to include my thing. No, that is not what we are doing. The lie is out and the truth is in. Yes, we must fuck their thing if it's wrong, not add something to it. And this brother here, of course, he's got a book coming out called Loose Cannons, talking about how blacks overblow the dilemma of white people, and I know I must be in the book. And then he says these bogus theories of the sun and the ice people and the individual scapegoating of other ethnic groups only resurrects the worst of the 19th century racist pseudoscience. Sound like a boule, right? We better check the list. A nigga named Gates, head of the Afro Studies at Harvard University. But here's two people fighting under the dilemma, and they both work for white universities. Now how is it you got to come up with two of them? I don't get it. And brother man just says things like, you know, we don't want to cause no trouble. Just let us get paid and put ours in there. And that's no good. And of course, in the beginning of the article, you saw a discussion about a fight at the Smithsonian Institute, fighting over whether or not they will correctly put the historical significance of what's going on now in the Smithsonian. And of course, there's been a long list of stories lately. It's really odd. What are these white people up to? Maybe you saw this Time magazine that ran the same time as the Newsweek. Lost tribes, lost knowledge. It's heavy story. Got a brother here on the cover with a straw in his nose. An elder. And I know this man ain't wearing no straws in his nose where he come from. But then, you know, U.S. News, they got an act a couple of weeks before that. They had one called Early Man. Early Man. The radical new view of where we came from. No, you ain't come from us, motherfucker. You the ice people. You ain't come from us. But here's the thing, though. Why do you think they are going to the essence of existence and giving certain credence to you and your history? Do you think it's because they want to crown you? It's because they have to signal to the other whites who you are for sure and tell them that these are the Negroes that God sent to us, and we will never win till we kill them. And they're being definite about why you must be killed, because you are the beginning and supposed to be the end, and they don't want that to happen. And so they have gone through. Here was another one they did in Time. Who are we? American kids are getting a new and divisive view of Thomas Jefferson Thanksgiving and the 4th of July. They call it divisive. And then, of course, here was this, remember this one in Newsweek, the search for Adam and Eve. You remember these covers? And then, of course, the Washington Post, and I don't know if you saw it, just the other day, ran a front page article, September 27th, last Friday, new evidence of Eve, theory of human African roots defended. And the brother who had brought up this stuff, he died at a very young age of 59 a couple of weeks ago. Now has got new data that he had finished before he died coming out of Science magazine, verifying the Lucy thing. And so I say that that's done for a reason. It's a very dangerous reason that they're coming across the covers with this information. And we must be aware of what they are up to. I do not believe is for the good of us. Very important. Very important. I brought a couple of tapes with me on Jewish people. I need to tell you why I bought them. One tape back there is about the protocols of the Learned Elders of Zion. I believe there were about 4 or 5 of them left. They were $24. It's a 4-tape set. And what I had done with a room full of people was went through all 24 protocols. Now, we need to one night have a lecture on the protocols, or you need to go get the tape and just play it and let other people hear it, and grab the book and go through it, because many times people get the book, but the book gets kind of boring to them, so they don't read all of it, and they put it down. They ain't got no pictures in it, ain't got no jokes, no ads or nothing. So our people get a little tired, and they can't read it all. Now in UCLA, how many of y'all ever seen this newspaper here called the Nomo? Well, the Nomo used to come all over the country. It don't get around like it used to, because they've been jamming the people at the Nomo. But they did a story in the February '91 issue about, is Esalen Books anti-Semitic? Esalen Bookstore is the major black bookstore in Los Angeles that at the African marketplace last year was selling the book, The Protocols of the Learned Elders of Zion, and a Jewish alderman, Yev Yaroslavsky, who runs the area of Westwood-UCLA and Beverly Hills, condemned Esalen Bookstore and tried to get the money taken away from the African marketplace by saying that they cannot sell the Protocols of the Learned Elders of Zion. Now, the reason that the tape is there and how you have to codify your challenge to people who challenge the tape. You see, the Jewish people put pressure on people who bring up the protocols, saying that this is a disgraceful document. It was written by the Tsar of Russia in 1905, and it's a fraud. Well, my lecture is called Protocols of the Learned Elders of Zion, Fact or Fiction, which means I don't give a fuck. Now, but this is the point to it. If the Tsar of Russia forged the protocols in 1905, then we must give him the Prophecy Award, because even though it was a forgery, 21 of the 24 stipulations have come to pass. Now, I wouldn't give a fuck if he stole it, created it, saw it in his dream. The fact that he did it 85 years ago, and 85 years later it has unfolded, is enough for me. How many of y'all see any movies? Y'all seen Terminator or this one or that one? You like the movies because they were hedged in reality. We don't have to get in an argument over whether they're real or whether they're false. All we know is we need to call it, if it's a fact or if it's a fiction, we shouldn't care. We just say, well, if it's a novel and it's hedged in reality, let's go look at number one. Force them into the document. They don't even want to argue with you over the document. And I was speaking at UCLA last February when they attacked the Nomo for that story. They beat a sister named Monique Matthews, tried to beat this sister to death for writing a story defending Esalen Bookstore. And the Jewish newspaper, the Hum, had come out and condemned them and beat them up and called them all kind of names and everything, and demanded that they apologize or that they go up before the university to be ruled as an infraction and had the paper taken away. I just happened to have been there at that time and went to their first hearing against the Hum with the head of the communications board at UCLA, and the dialogue came up of, why would you all bring up this document called the Protocols? And then I spoke for them, and the dialogue was, it really didn't matter whether it was fact or fiction. It was relevant because it was hedged in reality. And I said, you know, one of them deals with the desire for the Jewish people to assist in the development of a supranational government. Supranational government. It's housed right here in New York. It's called the United Nations, and now they made it more relevant than ever before, setting it up as the supranational body. But just as a little sidebar, I want to throw in, it says, Nakasone urges lead role for G7 industrial states. Japan's ex-leader sees peace by consortium. This is the Washington Post, September 7th, 1991. What's significant about this story is that Nakasone says that the UN should not be the focal point of leadership in the New World Order. It ought to be the G7. Now, what's the G7? Right, and they just had a big meeting in London. The G7 is 7 so-called industrialized democracies who have formed an alliance, and every year they have annual economic summits. This year it was in London in July, where Gorbachev came and appealed for full membership, and they agreed to give him associate membership for the Soviet Union in the IMF and the World Bank. Because you can't be in the world order without being in the IMF and World Bank. And to be in there, you got to go by their rules. Okay, we're going to talk about something like that. Anyway, listen up. Anyway, so the G7, Nakasone says that the Germans and the Japanese are not on the 5 permanent members of the Security Council. And since they are not, they do not want to see the 5 members of the permanent Security Council get the ultimate decision-making power. Germany and Japan want in. So they suggested that G7 be used and not the UN Security Council. The Security Council, of course, is China, Soviet Union, United States, Britain, and France. Now, the important thing to that is that Nakasone wants to make sure that the Chinese and the Soviets don't have more authority than the Germans and the Japanese. Well, the real deal is that, of course, the Germans and the Japanese don't have military, so they couldn't get the position on the Security Council. But if the G7 becomes the one that decides what goes to the Security Council, they'll be satisfied. Where did the G7 come from? The G7, if you got that book called Trilateralism by Holly Sakar, go look up the chapter on economic summits. Oh, also, let me tell you this. In the back of the room, there is a $3 pamphlet that is from some of my lectures where the information has been combed, and all of the books and all of the tapes and other reference material, the sister's holding one up, has been articulated so that everybody would know where the information comes from, and you could do your own searching. And it's about 15 pages, 13, 14 pages. Back in the back, they're $3, and they go into the tape so that one would understand the source information so that you could then go on. Now, the thing to the G7 is that the G7 was started in 1976. The first G7 meeting was in France in 1976. Well, that should, of course, ring a bell for you. It's strange that it would be in France in 76, since that's the so-called American Revolution, the so-called French Revolution, but also the Illuminati founding, 76. And the G7 was started by the Trilateral Commission, who 75 went to President Gerald Ford and encouraged him to set up the first meeting in 76 in France. That's just for the record, so that when someone talks about the G7 and they're going to be the new leadership grouping, and then the G7 came from the Trilateral, and the Trilateral was founded by who? Who? Rockefellers, that's right. So obviously, if this is going to be the one that's going to run the world, and Rockefeller is the one, then we ought to have some pressure on him. And of course, one quick deviation also, Rockefeller's other organization here is the Council on Foreign Relations. How many protests have you all had here in New York at the Council on Foreign Relations? None? No, y'all got to be kidding. You can't tell me that everybody, here's Mandela, there's Bosak, there's Dinkins, there's Yeltsin, there's the Russian military leader. Who else on here? That's the head of China. That's that sister, Constanza Rice, who be all in the Russian thing. There's Colin Powell, there's Foley. You can't tell me you all, Jonas Savimbi, Kissinger, Cyrus Vance, you all never had a protest at the Council on Foreign Relations? When Jonas Savimbi did come, he went to the council, he spoke at the Royal Institute of International Affairs. He then came here and spoke at the Council on Foreign Relations in New York. And it's more people in there than Savimbi. And how can Savimbi get the invitation to Mandela too and them be the same people? And their address is 58 East 68th Street. Telephone number is 212-734-0400. Telex number 239-852 CFRUR. Fax number 212-861-1789. You should have pressure on the Council on Foreign Relations. It is headquartered in New York. It is the extension of a secret society set up by Cecil Rhodes and Lord Rothschild. And this is their secret society. Everybody comes here. You don't make it in international affairs unless you go through here. Now, how could you go to all these meetings and never know to go there to get Africa? How many of y'all here love Africa? If you love Africa, you got to fuck the council. My point is that that can all change tomorrow. Whatever has happened, it can be different tomorrow. There needs to be an anti-Council on Foreign Relations coalition. Now see, the good part about an informant is they will go and say, Coakley said they're going to fuck the Trilateral, they're going to fuck the CFR, they're going to fuck Rockefeller, they're going to fuck the IMF, fuck the World Bank, fuck the United Nations, and go to the damn Diamond District. Excuse me, sister, not so fast. Now I'm giving this lecture. Now, and that's not to put her down. That's not to put sister down. I love her. She's my elder. I respect her too. The Diamond District. Now that the Hasidic Jewish people have run over a little child, now everybody ought to be willing to give them what they ought to give them anyway for running that damn Diamond District at 47th Street. How many anti-apartheid protests have there been at the Diamond District? Come on, y'all. How could you, 80% of all the diamonds from South Africa come through the Diamond District? Well, I ain't into the gold part because the gold don't go through the Diamond District. That's why it's called Diamond District. But now, check out what I'm saying. Every day, every newspaper prints an ad about somebody selling a diamond. Clip the ad. Get the address and note the location of the diamond retailer. The Diamond District is the wholesaler's operation, right? And Azania is the birthplace of the diamond. The De Beers Diamond Selling Company, Central Selling Source, De Beers Consolidated Diamond Mines, is the corporation owned by Anglo-American Corporation, which was founded with Cecil Rhodes and Lord Rothschild. Same extension of secret society. They also Anglo-American own Solomon Brothers. Now, ain't no way you would never have no protests at the CFR, the Trilateral, the UN, the Diamond District, and be up in where there are more black people in this city than in any city in the United States of America. There are no more, which means that the intelligence system must be pretty strong and have great credibility with the sleep, such that they have never been challenged about their inability to put pressure on the heart of white supremacy. You see, some people don't like me when I come, and they don't want people to get me in. This can't always be exciting and dramatic and funny, because there's some hard realities in here about us being misled by some people who claim to be leading us, who will never lead us to the one they know that if we beat just that one, we would have won. There's an alarm on in the back, so who's ever on security should check, make sure that's not one of our cars or any one other African's car. Now, so we got to be up on that. Just as one note from Foreign Policy Magazine, a comment about the Trilateral Commission and the insiders' role, what they will do on behalf of aid to third world nations, of course, which we know are first world. They have a comment in here. This is Foreign Policy Magazine, fall 1990, put out by the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. This book and Foreign Affairs are the two overt foreign policy journals. In here is a discussion. It says that there will be 3 poles of influence in the future: a North American cluster, a European cluster, and a Japanese cluster or Asian cluster. It also says that it has a relationship with the so-called third world nations. It says around each pole will cluster with varying intensities of attraction states of the third world. It says the more affluent third world states may become functioning democracies, and but the remainder, many states in Africa, Asia, and Latin America, will continue to be specters at the feast. Specters at the feast. Specters at the feast. Africa, Asia, Latin America will continue to be specters at the feast. This is a big white organization's house organ telling you that these countries will be specters at the feast. They will be neither unseen nor unheard, however. Constant attempts by their growing populations to penetrate the immigration barriers of the developed world will assure that they will also contribute to the list of social harms, most notably drugs, but also terrorism, and such phenomena as environmental degradation that also erode the security of the rich societies of the West. Thus, they will thus have nuisance value. Yeah, they're going to get to talking loud when you start telling where you got to go. We got to go them places. They will thus have nuisance value. The probability is that at least for a while, the Western societies will treat them only as nuisances. Economic assistance to the poor countries will be palliative, not curative. Palliative, not curative. Aid to the third world countries will be palliative, not curative. Aid to you in the United States is palliative and not curative. What is that? Enough to pacify your ass, but not cure you. Crumbs, right? And you know what? It's working. The game that they are playing of pacifying our people with no reason whatsoever is working, because basically we are quiet, not attacking the heart of their operation, and they're not so stupid that they don't know, but who amongst us are they paying to keep you from the CFR? Who amongst us are they putting out here to hear speak, putting on the radio and the TV and putting in flyers and getting on podiums where thousands of people can speak? Who is it that they're paying exactly never to come up with their names? Don't take it lightly when I tell you that though you might not understand it, they have carefully contrived a bunch of speakers, drama, dialogue, and Afrocentrism, but no direct action. And that's important. Okay. Now, that was Foreign Policy Magazine, fall 1990, an article by Richard Ullman, who's a trilateral commissioner, entitled Enlarging the Zone of Peace. It's what do we do now that we didn't got the Soviet, our white brother, to come in the house. In fact, they had a meeting. One of the things I was going to tell you about, as I say, I got a few minutes. I got to do some things real quick. Listen to this. The Russian Revolution, right? Y'all saw it, right? Y'all remember that Gorbachev was locked in the room making a video because they said he was crazy, but he really wasn't, so he was trying to make a video, sneak his video over to his friend George Bush. They just had a meeting, the KGB. Check this out. You got to check this out. This is deep. How times change. KGB welcomes Baker. New chief asks, who's our enemy? You see, Soviets pledge on Cuba leaves U.S. paralyzed. The Soviets agree. Yeah, they say, get them 11,000 people out of there. They got them out of there. Left my man butt dry. He all up in Africa trying to free Angolans and others, and now his ass in a jam. And we got to help him. Now, check this out here. You heard about them 3 little Russian guys got ran over by the tank? Y'all hear about that? When they had the Russian Revolution? Now see, I think it was a botched revolution. I think the rich white boys allowed a group of white boys to do certain things, monitoring them, and then once they did it, they could escalate the aura of change by allowing them to attempt a coup that they know would never work. How could you set up a coup and leave Yeltsin standing there on the telephone calling George Bush and shit? Right? See, but I say it was a fake coup. Here Gorbachev is, remember Gorbachev was president after 3 other presidents died so he could get the spot. Brezhnev, then it was Churchenko, then it was Andropov, then it was Gorbachev. And Gorbachev then goes out and does everything they want done. Now you know who he belonged to. And now he's pleading to get into the institutions of the West. And so they have merged. We have witnessed the merging. I think I had one video left out there, the World Centralization and White Power in 1992. They are on schedule. Their train is on schedule. But they had a little thing, and this is something you must remember. You see this picture? Don't you ever forget this picture. Since they're playing revolution, that's Yeltsin standing around 200,000-300,000 people. You can pull it off in New York, but it got to look like this. You don't need all the things you think you're saving for. You just got to be able to get all the people in the street at one particular moment. One moment strung together with a series of double and triple moments is enough to to make them run. You must understand this if you don't. The chemistry is not will you have enough ammunition, will you have enough this, it's can you find the unifying chords of the people so that you can put the 2, 3, 4, 500,000 in every city where you have allies, and they stop the system cold until your terms are met, and your terms are, I hope, are like my terms. White man, leave now, there'll be no trouble. In case you didn't know, the little 3 Soviet guys who were in every magazine, they had these 3 little Soviet guys who were the 3 little guys got ran over. And they had, you remember they were ran over by a tank? 3 little Soviet guys, and they paid big honor to them. And they, as looking here, they got little graves where they're honoring the 3 guys who risked their life, and they gave them hero awards and all this other stuff, remembering the martyrs killed during the coup. Well, the reality was I had to spend $5 to buy the British Observer newspaper that on the front page ran the story, Russians mourn the heroes who died for freedom. And it says one big irony to the whole thing was we forgot to tell everybody that the tanks that ran over the 3 guys, them was Yeltsin's tanks, not the KGB's overthrowers, which means they got ran over by their own people. But they made them the heroes. That was the reason to put everything in force to do what they had to do. And that was very important. You should never forget that. One thing about the Jeffries thing, U.S. News and World Report, U.S. Today did a commentary on Jeffries, and it says, fighting racism, fighting rumors. No, it was talking about Crown Heights. And what it said was that's the house saying we got to go. Okay, that the Crown Heights thing was that the only problem in Crown Heights was that there was a bad rumor. That if it had not been for the bad rumor, there wouldn't have been a problem. And of course, that was not the problem at all. But the thing called for rumor control networks. I leave here and go to Baltimore. Here's the Baltimore Annual Report about how the Baltimore Community Relations Commission runs a rumor control center to answer questions and correct false information. The center has been particularly successful in stopping the spread of misinformation that can lead to intergroup conflict. Anybody ever come and warned you about white conflict headed your way? So intergroup conflict is the network that warns white people about the coming of black people. One big thing I got to say about South Africa, must get this in before we close. The African Revolution is the titular head of the world revolution, and the Africans in America are the only ones that can light the fuse. The African Revolution is the titular head to the world African Revolution, but only the Africans in America can light the fuse. Understand that. The South African anti-apartheid movement has failed. You can get the list of anybody who runs it in New York. I'll stand them on the wall, take me 5 minutes in undressing them about why didn't you go here, why didn't you go there, who did you really put the pressure on, let me see the flyers, what did you really say, and why were you walking around a fucking embassy and don't even know who the people are that work there or where they live? And why did you ever not put pressure on Solomon Brothers and Lazard Perez? Felix Rohatyn sits on the board of Minoko that owns Solomon and is a director up in the Anglo-American thing. But why was it that the Anglo-American Corporation in 1986 decided that the ANC would be the organization that would lead the white people to peaceful negotiations in Africa? Why did the ANC sell out to Anglo-American? Why did the ANC sell out to Anglo-American? Get the book Black and Gold by Anthony Sampson. Get the chapter called Revolutionaries and Tycoons about Galvin Riley, Rhodes Scholar, chairman of Anglo-American, who went to Oliver Tambo and had the meeting in London, and Tambo's first words were, "We are all South Africans." That gives the white man entitlement to the land. No land for the white man in Africa. No land for the white man in so-called America. No land. No deals. Right? So now the ANC is now in the focal point of the movement, but remember, it was an integrated organization like the NAACP and Urban League. It had white people in it when white people couldn't get in every organization in Tanzania. And remember this, and don't you ever forget it, that now that the Anglo-American Corporation has safely put the ANC and Mandela at the front of the negotiations, the ANC has changed their position that was unchangeable. They have agreed they will never nationalize the gold and diamond mines. Now, you can't have no peaceful settlement and the white man keeps the gold and the diamonds. I'm sorry, ANC, we will kick your ass before we let you sell out. Now, everybody ain't gonna like that because everybody don't understand it. They have never fought the Anglo-American Corporation for any of this, though they are the ones that run it, because like Rockefeller, they got a liberal front imagery. And they paid plenty of Negroes. Here, I told you before about Randall Robinson fronting as a spy for the Rockefeller Foundation by going out and doing the Greater Voice for Rockefeller, Greater Voice for Africa project. The Greater Voice for Africa project, where Randall Robinson went around to the major cities and asked all the African organizations what was their activity on Africa. And then the Ford Foundation just come out and agreed to build constituencies for Africa in all of the cities that Randall Robinson spied on. And if any of them, Randall Robinson, Vivian Lowry at the African American Institute, or any others challenge what I say, they can accuse me of blasphemy, take me to court, hit me, or whatever else they think they need to do. But only 5 minutes with them in front of you will show you they are the spies that have been holding you back. You might not want to accept it. You might not understand it. It will go into the tape. It will go into the record. It is registered before the law of the people, and the people will take their time and figure it out. Mandela is now out of jail, and 30 million people went in. He is not worth it. He can take his ass back to jail. Because Mandela is the freest man in all of Africa, but the people ain't free. So now one of the conditions to lift the sanctions was that they could have political parties. So now they got political parties, but the shit can't even vote. Now what you need with a political party, you can't vote. The 2 reporters on Jeffries, okay. As you can see, okay. Right? Now y'all know I don't leave. Y'all know I ain't going nowhere. Also want to say, hold it before you go, let me say this here. See, like, you got Brother Professor Griff. Brother Professor, you still here? You got Brother Professor Griff here, right? Who was a part of Public Enemy. Let me get a brother a hand. It's my brother. Yeah. This brother used to call and ask for the tapes and the information. And the brothers would sit up and listen and learn about the information going on in a worldwide situation. And when the brother started going out, he was the minister of information. It was his role to articulate the impressions that the group was making on the youth. And when brother went out and started talking very clearly about the diamond people and Switzerland, brother tell me about being banned in Switzerland. And then the group member saying, brother, you got to tone down. And brother, you got to tone down. And brother, you got to tone down. It really meant, brother, you got to shut the fuck up so we can get paid. Public Enemy became Public Friend, and you need to know it. I don't ever want you to forget it. And what I want you to know about it is everybody don't stand straight when the Jewish people come, knees do buckle. And when they put the pressure on Professor Griff, right in that article by Donald Mills, who brother put his name back in the street, lasted long enough to put his name back on the street, hit a brother down there, broke down and cried when you challenged him there at Howard University for the pain of having done what he did to you and me. Brother says, where'd you get this information from? He says, from Henry Ford and Steve Coakley. Now, one of us are dead. But then Chuck D go right in the Billboard magazine and say, them sources Griff gave have long since been discredited. I don't know if you're talking about me. But the other side of it was that what it really came down to is that you can't make no money in white world unless you learn how to fight the system. See, the system, you can fight the white man, the Jew man, the system, but you can't fight nobody in specific. That's why we ain't putting the pressure on the right people, because we have been misled by the people who fight in general. You will know who gets paid by how deep they go with the analysis of the enemy, because the left alone and identified, the people will take care of them. The people will take care of the ones who've been fingered, who are killing the Africans in America. The people will take care of that. But don't nobody want to put that out there. And this brother went through pure hell for standing up and saying that, and the brothers had to ostracize him, hoping that the Jewish people would come in and fuck him up. They would hope that they would put the pressure on him. Then the brother go down there and get with Brother Luke, and then they go jump Brother Luke. All out of the sky, they just going to jump this brother. And the real reason they was jumping him because he defended and promoted this brother. You all got to learn that when a man, like when they said Steve Coakley was out, not one black person stepped up to him. They stepped away from me. Because when they say put him on ice, even the big ones run. Yes, they do. And they always say you'll never make it in this world unless you learn how to fight in general, my friend, because that's always what you got to do, especially when you're fighting the Jewish people. And many people are afraid of the Jewish people, but you got to remember this. If you don't never remember them, they are some of the weakest people on the planet. There's a book that you should get. There's a book that you should get called Fate of the Jews. I reviewed the book in a tape back there on black and Jewish relations at the University of Maryland. This book here, The Fate of the Jews, this book, The Fate of the Jews, a people torn between Israeli power and Jewish ethics, by Roberta Strauss Fraudelite. You should get this book. They say that the white people that own more maids and servants than any white people in America are the Jewish people. How the Jewish people took advantage of you when they came here. How a Jewish person sold you, but no Jewish person has ever been sold ever by a black person, and ain't no Jewish person cleaning up no black person's house. Get the book and read in here. Pardon me? The author, Roberta Feuerlight, and they beat the shit out of the woman, because if you get the book by Lenny Brenner, Jews in America Today, you will hear Lenny Brenner say how this woman got beat up for writing this book. And Lenny Brenner also says in that book that Edwin Black, who wrote the transfer agreement, got his ass kicked too when he showed that the Zionists had helped Hitler, even though they called me Hitler, called his brother Hitler, a brother minister Hitler, that the ADL and the American Jewish Congress and the American Jewish Committee did more for Hitler than we ever could have done. And then they beat the shit out of Edwin Black, and then Lenny Brenner said he only told half of the truth. He could have told more. And Lenny Brenner did this book, Zionism and the Age of Dictators by Lenny Brenner, and Jews in America Today by Lenny Brenner. Get this book here, The Diamond World by David Kosky. Get that information on that diamond connection. You got to have that information on the diamond. There's also a book by Edward J. Epstein. There's also a book here, The Rise and Fall of Diamonds by Edward J. Epstein. About Jews by a Jewish person. You should get this book on the diamond connection. Yes, on the book list, and get the tape back there. The most copies I have left are Diamonds, Jewish People in South Africa. You here in New York can do more for that than anyone ever. One last story before you walk out. One last story. It's the last story. Listen up. How many of y'all seen the movie The Wiz? Yeah, The Wiz or The Wizard of Oz? Y'all remember that it was 3 people going in pursuit of 4 people? It's always 4 people and a dog. You got, one was looking for a heart, one was looking for courage, one was looking for, what was that? Brains. Now, them are things everybody needs. But to get them, they had to go to the wizard because they felt it had been unfair, so they had to go to the wizard to get them. But to get to the wizard, you had to go through the FBI, the CIA, the Pentagon, the National Security Council. You seen them little guys going, and they was kicking Dorothy and all them in the ass to keep them from getting to the wizard. But they kept pushing. They kept going down the yellow brick road. They kept pushing. And if you remember in The Wiz, it got to that moment when they had flushed old Eveline down the toilet, and the people had them little funny suits on. They unzipped their suits and they did that dance about, can you see it? Brand new day. And then those same people who had fought and stopped them from getting to the Wizard of Oz then assisted them on their way, because once they had been forced to acknowledge the truth, they then assisted the ones they were holding back, because all people who do it to you do not always want to do it. But when they get free, they will come and get free with you. And then when they finally got up on the wizard, what did they find? He wasn't shit. He was a prop. The ones that we're after, the richest, biggest, most powerful ones we're after, need the police, Brown, Dinkins, the Boulay, the Skull and Bones, the Masons, the FBI, the CIA, the Defense Department. They need the New York Times, the Post, the Daily News, the Tribune, Newsweek, Times. They need the Harvards, the Yales. They need the think tanks, the Aspens, the Brookings. They need them to keep you from saying that if you ever got up on their ass one-on-one, you will beat them, because they are just a prop. Thank you. Thank you all very much. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Oh, okay. Thank you, brother. Okay, great. I need to sign this?
Yeah, you know, just sign it to you.
I'm going to be out front.